You've taken collagen pills, massaged rosemary oil into your scalp, and tried rice water that made your hair smell like a health food store just for it to stay the exact same length. That frustration that you feel right there, you are not alone. In over 10 years of my salon, I've watched thousands of brilliant, accomplished, amazing women torture themselves over hair growth. The real problem here is that everything you've been told about growing long hair is a lie. So in this video, I'm going to show you the real secret to growing long hair, the one that hair growth brands and influencers don't want you to know about. One of my clients that we'll call Sarah came in last week and said, "Chris, my hair just won't grow. I've tried every supplement and product on the market and my hair still hasn't grown an inch in 2 years." I go, "What do you mean? Your hair's grown an inch just since the last time I saw you?" She was shocked, like, "What? No, it hasn't. I have pictures from last year. Take a look." I go, "I don't need to take a look at those pictures. I can tell just from looking at your roots." She's like, "What do you mean by looking at my roots?" I pointed to them and I said, "See here where your color's grown out? All that growth has happened since your last color appointment." She looked in the mirror and kind of squinted and said, "Wait a second, you're right. But why isn't my hair getting longer? Am I too old? I did just turn 50. I told her, "Absolutely not. I have 20-year-old clients who have this exact same problem. If you're in normal health, your hair is growing about half an inch per month. That comes out to about 6 inches of growth per year. But Big Hair Care has spent billions convincing you to focus on growth because that's where the money is. They can sell you miracle ingredients, fancy vitamins, essential oils from exotic rainforests, but they can't sell you the truth. And the truth is simple. Your hair is already grown at maximum speed, so the secret is not about getting it to grow faster. It's about keeping the length that you already have. When I explained this to Sarah, she asked the million-dollar question, which is, "So where is all my length going?" The answer is it's disappearing right in front of your eyes without you even noticing it's happening. It works like this. Your hair grows in phases. A new hair grows out of your follicle, and at first it's extremely healthy because it's new. But as that hair grows out and gets longer, it starts to get worn down and lose moisture. Now, you can use conditioner to replace that lost moisture, and that works for about an hour, but later on, your hair is gonna be dry again. And letting your hair get dry is the #1 sin of hair care because dry hair is much more brittle and susceptible to damage. If you don't know the trick, keeping your hair moisturized is like trying to take a bath with the drain open. It's gonna be a very, very dry bath. So while your hair starts growing out really healthy, it begins to dry out, which allows everyday wear and tear to erode that outer layer of your hair, which is called the cuticle. When you zoom in, a healthy cuticle looks like this, nice and smooth. But when it's damaged, you can see when the scales are lifted and cracked, it means the moisture escapes even more easily. And here's the scary part. Once the hair starts to get damaged, that damage accelerates. It's like having a cracked phone screen. Once you get a little crack, it starts to spread and get worse and worse. The key here is keeping your hair really healthy because once that damage starts, it can spiral out of control. Sarah goes, "Okay, I totally get that, but how does this all rob me of length?" So I explained what started with a tiny bit of wear and tear damage around your roots spiraled out of control as your hair was growing out into becoming a mid. It continues to get worse and worse until it finally becomes an end that's super dry, super brittle, and literally will just dissolve off into dust. So I told her, you don't lose length in huge chunks. You lose it in tiny little bits that you don't even notice because your hair is too damaged to stay in one piece. That's why even though you get 6 new inches of hair growth every year, you're losing that exact same 6 inches of length off your ends, so your hair never gets longer. And I know you're probably thinking the exact same thing Sarah did, which was, great, my hair is doomed. Thanks for the bad news. But not so fast, my friend, because what I'm about to show you next is gonna blow your mind. Because while most stylists have been studying color, I've been obsessed with hair health and growth for the past 10 years. So this is my specialty, and I've cracked the code on how to stop that damage and unlock length. My clients who follow this system don't just get longer hair, they get it faster than they thought was possible, and it's way simpler than what you're doing right now. Here's how to unlock your length. The first thing to understand is there are two major mistakes that make hair growth impossible. The first one is you're just washing too often. I know that you don't think you are, but all of my clients thought that exact same thing too before they finally grew their hair out. When you shampoo, you're not just removing gross oil that makes your hair dirty. You're also accidentally removing some of the natural oil from inside your hair that it needs to stay healthy. So if you're washing every day or every other day, your hair is constantly losing moisture, kind of like when you wash your hands over and over, they start to dry out. The key here is to go as long as possible between washes so your hair has time to recover moisture before you wash it again. So I ask her, Sarah, how long are you going between washes? No judgment, you can tell me the truth. She's like, I wash every day. It gets dirty and gross so fast, I can't help it. I go, not a problem. That's totally normal. Every day is where most people start, but what kind of shampoo are you using? She says, I use this OGX shampoo from Target that my friend recommended to me. And I'm like, man, that's your problem. We're definitely gonna have to fix that. Almost all of my clients come into my salon using a shampoo that completely prevents them from going days between washes. What shampoos am I talking about? You'll find most of them at grocery stores like Target, and they seem like a good deal, but what you don't realize is how watered down they are and how much buildup they leave behind, so your hair is never able to get clean. And because of that, you're stuck washing every day, which is great for OGX because you blow through their watered down bottle really quickly. But if your hair could talk, it would tell you that a shampoo soulmate for $30 will let you go 4 or more days between washes. And Sarah shuddered like, ooh, $30 for shampoo? I can get 6 coffees for that. But that's not how it works, because if your shampoo soulmate lets you go 4 days between washes, and you would have to wash every day with that Target shampoo, you're blowing through the cheap stuff so quickly that you aren't actually saving money. And the time you use 1 quality bottle of shampoo, you go through 4 bottles of the cheap stuff. Not to mention the fact that the watered down stuff suffocates your scalp and buildup, which is terrible for hair growth. So remember, do the math correctly. If you're looking for a deal with hair, it's always better to use fewer high quality products than to use a ton of cheap ones. If you want to find your shampoo soulmate, check out my recommended product list in the description. It even has a hair type quiz to walk you through everything. But once you do find your shampoo soulmate, you're ready for the next step, which is resetting your hair. Let's talk for a second about the cycle your hair goes through to gain length. There's actually 3 stages of hair growth, and it starts with the anagen phase. This is the first stage. It's when your hair starts growing out of the follicle, and this phase lasts for years. Your goal during this phase is to make sure that your hair doesn't get damaged, because if it stays healthy, you're gonna keep all the length. What you really have to watch out for here is damage usually starts to creep in here about the mid area, because remember, roots are still very healthy because they're brand new. If you allow the damage to get a foothold in your mids, that hair will start to become dry and brittle, and again, just break off instead of getting long. Luckily, mids are where my system starts to get really powerful. Now, this is where we put a stopper in that bathtub that is your hair that we're trying to keep moisturized. Because the secret here is that if your hair is topped off with moisture, it's surprisingly resilient to damage. So how do we keep that moisture topped off? What is the stopper for hair? The answer is leave-in conditioner, and it is your savior. All you have to do is spray it on wet hair after towel drying on wash days, and all the moisture from your conditioner will stay inside your hair until you wash again. You just have to remember to brush it through so it gets evenly distributed to every strand so you get a full protective seal. And Sarah pops in here, she's like, isn't leave-in conditioner and regular conditioner the exact same thing? I'm like, no, they do completely separate things. Regular conditioner puts moisture in your hair, leave-in conditioner keeps that moisture from leaking out. All right, so before we go to the next part, there's one more thing that will completely prevent your hair from ever getting linked that you need to avoid like the plague, which is trimming your hair. This is a mistake Leslie learned the hard way. It actually prevented her from ever growing her hair out for like a decade, pretty much all of her 20s. No matter what she and her stylist did, they could not figure this out. But it turns out that getting trims every 6 weeks does not make your hair longer. Shocking fact of the day, cutting your hair makes it shorter, not longer. This myth has been around forever in the hair industry. Like, yes, the more you come and see me, the better your hair will be. Stylists love to believe that, but it is not a thing. It's a complete lie, not up for debate. There is zero credible argument that can be made for cutting hair, making hair longer. It's one of the most harmful lies in all of hair care. Sarah's like, oh my gosh, I've been getting trims every 6 weeks this whole time. That's actually bad? I go, if you're trying to grow longer hair, it's the absolute worst possible thing that you can do. She asks, how often should I get trims then? I say, go as long as you possibly can. If you can go for a whole year, do it. Remember, you only get 6 inches of growth every year, and you don't want to waste it by trimming it. All right, so healthy roots, check. Mids healthy with leave-in conditioner, check. Split ends, definitely no check, so let's cover that real quick. Ends present a different problem than the rest of your hair. You may not have thought about it like this, but your ends actually have an open hole on the bottom the moisture can leak right out of. And you probably remember that when the moisture leaks out, they get dry, crack, split, and then turn to dust, which means bye-bye to those precious 6 inches you were counting on getting. But imagine for a second what your life would be like if for the entire past year, your dried out ends, instead of cracking and splitting, you're actually just re-moisturizing them and keeping them. You can easily do that with hair oil. That's literally what it's for. It doesn't just coat your ends, it actually gets absorbed up into the middle of the hair shaft, moisturizing it from the inside out, which is the key here. But if that's the only time you use it, your ends are still going to split and crack. They dry out super fast, so you need to use this every day, sometimes twice a day if you notice your ends getting dry. Most women think hair oil will make their hair greasy, and that's because they're using cheap hair oils that don't absorb into the hair, or they're just using way too much. The right hair oil used correctly makes your hair glossy and healthy, not greasy. Sarah goes, every day? I don't like hair oil. It just makes my hair feel greasy. I go, that's probably because you've been using a cheap brand, and cheap brands don't get absorbed into your hair. She says, well, it's the same brand as my shampoo. I use the OGX oil too. My friend loves it. I go, OGX is one of the worst hair care brands on the market. That oil does not get absorbed into your hair. It sits on top, making it greasy. The right hair oil used correctly makes your hair look glossy and healthy, not greasy. Don't cheap out on it. So you can see how the whole system comes together. Each product handles one of the 3 parts of your hair. Your shampoo soulmate stops your follicles from suffocating and buildup. Leave-in conditioner stops moisture from leaking out of your hair. And hair oil stops your ends from splitting and breaking off. Sarah texted me about 3 months later after switching to the system with a photo. She said, I can't believe this is my hair now. She had been using 9 different products before, masks, serums, sprays, treatments. Now she only uses 4 products and she has the healthiest, longest hair of her entire life. Hair isn't just about doing more. It's about doing less with the right high quality products. Now that you know the secret that other people don't, you can be the woman getting random hair compliments. You can be the one people come to ask for hair secrets. The only difference between that version of you and the current version is she started today. And if you want to start today, check out my recommended product list in the description. It's got a hair type quiz that tells you exactly which products your specific hair type needs to get long. Your hair transformation starts right now. Take care out there, Rebel. Have a good one.